This is Spectre Divide. We're here on Xbox Series X. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So this is a competitive counter-like experience, as in Counter-Strike-like experience, where you are controlling two different Spectres. So basically, the game is a 3v3 setup, but there's actually 6 characters aside. So you can send one unit out as cannon fodder, use them as a bit of a turret, or in many other ways, such as getting to higher points in order to see over things. It's quite an interesting take on the Counter-Strike formula and setup, and it does play it safe while also being a little, I guess you'd say, to some degree, convoluted and a little bit more difficult to monitor because you are basically handling double the characters at once. Which is interesting and something that some may struggle to really
Pinnacle identified.
kind of get behind because it can be a little bit more difficult to get used to having two character bodies at the same time. Oh, nice. So this was something that I played back on the PC ahead of launch. Basically, I was part of their preview thing. And then I got to see at launch. So it's kind of nice to be taking a look at this again, because at that time they weren't saying at all whether or not they were doing console version. I was like, really? Nothing at all? Anyways, we're going to dive into this, talk about what it has to offer, and give you an idea of everything gameplay-wise. So like you saw, when I died, I became my Spectre, so yeah. And you can switch between them at any point. Obviously mine's dead now, but you know, you got two Spectres, and you kind of swap between the two bodies. So it's Counter-Strike like with a twist. And with it being a smaller player count, it's something that's a little bit more sustainable in terms of like players, because, you know, it's just 3v3 you need. But it's aggressive, it's fast, it's intense. There's a lot of wild combat on this. Kill player that's one of your bodies. Oh, the achievements in this are pretty easy going. Yeah, I'm just coming off the PlayStation. Another achievement. Wow, okay, Duality. Get a kill with both. Okay, with each body. No, that's nice. Alright, so let's dive in and talk about this. So Counter-Strike, like rules, you know, you have your knife out, you move a little bit faster. You can place your Spectre beforehand, so it's a little easier than having to, like, you know, I guess you would say manage it and kind of like have them set up. So you almost use them like a bit of a sentry, because they'll alert you when they're, you know, being attacked or anything like that, or when somebody's nearby. And there's lots of different ways to play and approach this game. There's a good selection of maps, a good selection of sponsors. A neat rotating thing where they are expanding this and building upon it. And we'll talk more about that over the course of the video, of course. There's lots to discuss and dive into. So, yeah, this is a relatively recent release. And it definitely will take people a bit to get used to, because you really do need to know the maps, the layouts, where people will move. They do have a good design aesthetic to it. I like it. There's a good level of like personalization with your Spectres too, and then you can buy more advanced like gun skins and stuff. And like they definitely do seem to have, you know, some ambitions with this one and building it up. And the big worry, I think, and even what I felt back then when I played it, was kind of like it just feels like Counter-Strike with extra steps, and there's quite a bit of competition. You know, like Counter-Strike, and then there's Fragpunk, and then there's Valorant, and this one, it just becomes like, you kind of get like lost at times because you don't think of yourself as two characters, and it's hard to get into that mindset. But it's neat that someone was saying, playing Counter-Strike at some point, being like, hey yo, what if we did this, but with like you have two bodies you switch between? It's a neat idea. So from a technical standpoint, what we have here is 4K resolution. I should have bought the better... Oh, I can't buy the better armor. Nice. And it's 60 FPS, but there is also the option to... Yeah, I'm not used to not having enough money to actually buy both things. Usually the people I play against aren't the best. So that's kind of funny. Okay, that'll have to work. Yeah, so it's a 60 FPS, and you can actually, in the game, you can go to the settings here, holding down the start button. You get a few different visual options. You know, your like viewing distance isn't really a thing you can adjust, but you can adjust like your crosshair, and you can actually go to VSync and turn that off, and it could, in theory, give you a higher frame rate, but it's going to be a little bit of a like a visual mess. We're just going to turn that down, so it's just party 2. But what's really cool is you can go to stats and you can actually have like your FPS up on the thing, and you have your ping and your frame time stuff. So you'll actually see on the right hand side there the FPS chart. It's kind of neat that they include that. You know, not many games allow that on console, but I am noticing a few of the competitive games seem to be supporting that kind of thing. But it also does have like occasional like drop kind of moments and stuff like that. I noticed that on the Pro too, and I just think it's kind of an optimization thing. But what's neat is you can actually go to the settings, like I had mentioned with the VSync there, and you can turn that off, and then it should actually take advantage of what your particular screen is, and it can take you up to 120 FPS. But it causes screen tearing, so it's not like an ideal scenario. But I mean, you do get the advantage, potentially, of performance in a competitive game. It seems like there's enough overhead to actually do 120 FPS, but I guess the big usual thing is for any game, really, is like if you say 120 FPS, you want to deliver on it, I guess, and I don't know, it's, I feel like potentially that we could get that sort of a thing, and it's just not available here, which is a little disappointing, but maybe afterwards they'll add that. I mean, like on YouTube, you're not really seeing it either, right? So, but yeah, anyways, just something I wanted to highlight and give you an idea of, so that you have a better knowledge of where things are going. So the game is decently lengthy. I mean, the rounds and how long each match lasts is really going to come down to how you are playing the game. So, wow, that person actually got really lucky there. Well, I mean, headshots kill faster, so obviously, again, Counter-Strike rules, you know, headshots and stuff takes you out fast. So aiming and accuracy is a big part of this game. But yeah, like I was saying, it's actually decently lengthy, but it could be a bit shorter depending on, you know, if your team is doing really well or doing really bad, and how fast everybody's dying. That all kind of factors in here. But that's why I use also Spectres, is you can't, like, really climb up stuff. There's a little bit of clambering, but you can't really climb up stuff, which is interesting. So it kind of locks you to almost using your Spectre as a, you know, team setup, as to say. Which is, you know, an intriguing gameplay format. And then you go back and forth, so at one point you'll be attacking for a few rounds, or defending, depending on what you got. And then you'll switch after several rounds. Didn't even see that guy. Didn't even hear it. But you throw out your knife, throw out your knife. You bring up your knife, you actually run a little bit faster, if you didn't know that, which Counter-Strike rule sets. Yeah, so you fight, you set up your Spectres, you do defense, and then there's the Cloaks of Darkness, which you've been seeing me kind of work around. So the cloaks, if you go into the cloak will basically, not these, but like the big walls where it's got a countdown timer, that is how long is essentially left before, if you go into the cloak, the other team can see it, you'll be like highlighted. Which could be a strategy too if you're going for like a bit of a blitz or a bit of a quick attack. Team's just getting destroyed here. You know, when I did this on the Pro, I was absolutely getting it done. Free armor, really? Wow, must be nice. Kill health, maybe I'll go for that. And that's an interesting element too of it, as well, as it is designed in a way that can be like, hey, if you want to make an attack a rush, you can, but it also pushes the players to work it to a degree, phases of how aggressive or passive they should be in certain like combat scenarios, and then it sort of unveils itself step after step. So we've got this initial block for a defensive moment that gives us time to set up, then there'll be a first cloud, and there'll be like a secondary cloud. You'll see that countdown timer going on, which is neat. And then the next part of that is the game also has these sponsors. So I can't believe I didn't catch that in the field of view there. So the sponsor system is basically where you each have a specific sponsor that you can pick. So the game limits itself by having you pick one sponsor per player. So one sponsor may provide something like frag grenades, or another one may be those cloaks that you were seeing, or another one may be some other sort of thing. And they're supposed to, from what I understand, because I was part of the preview and everything like that, I've, you know, talk to them over time, or well, I was talking to them ahead of the preview and stuff, and I could have actually taken a look at the console thing a little bit early too, but I've been kind of busy. But yeah, they're supposed to add more stuff like that over time. There's supposed to be more sponsors, more integrations, more ways to interact with the game, kind of have more of a bit of a randomness to it, which I think is fine. And then that all kind of plays into aesthetics and stuff too. You customize your Spectre. There's actually quite a few different options, and you can buy premium stuff to change how you look better. And you know, then there's battle pass type stuff too. You know, the usual things. It's just funny because I was really, when I was invited to take a look at this early and stuff on PC, I was very much like, you know, is this coming to console? This seems like something that would be on console with, you know, Valorant and Fragpunk and all that coming. And they're like, oh, no, we're not talking about that. Not happening, blah, blah, blah. Or the wording was, we're 100% focused on PC. And I was like, okay, fair enough. And then here we are. Not too long after playing this on console. It does work, but it's also funny because, like, obviously they were working on it at the time. So I get a bit of a chuckle that is the case. I don't know, the design of it's not bad. Like, when you get used to it, you get used to moving how you want your characters to be, and your strategy, and how you know, tackle scenarios. I die a lot. It's a neat setup, and it's, you know, it's 3v3 action. It's relatively fast-paced. The combat flows well. It's got a neat environment. I like the, it's mostly a cel-shaded aesthetic, but they've actually kind of grunged it up a bit too since when I played. Like, it definitely looks like it's got more of a grim kind of vibe to it, just in terms of like how it visually looks. So I think that's kind of neat, because I think that was one thing, was it was like kind of a little cleaner from what I remember aesthetically. But yeah, I definitely do like this. Like, it's fun. I don't know if it's gonna necessarily fully capture my interest over the other Counter-Strike-esque games that are out there. You know, like, obviously these things are filling a void for the console side perspective of things. They provide, you know, something, because Counter-Strike we don't have except for like the back compat 360 version running on Series X. But I do find this interesting. Like, it's not bad, it's fun, it's kind of tactical, it's competitive. The sponsors mix things up a bit. I get what they're going for. It's just, it is wondering, like, I'm wondering mostly how much this is going to capture people's interest, because it is basically very, like, it is Counter-Strike, right? But
Starting adrenaline. 30 seconds remaining.
Healing? Well, that wasn't very smart in that usage of that thing. Well, we're kind of playing defense. If anything, we should just be kind of sitting back and waiting, right? But I am curious if the gameplay design around doing this extra bit of complexity and having to command two troops, two characters at the same time, will be too much for people. It feels like a semi-convoluted way to deliver this game, and I'm like, I don't know if that sort of... Because that's the hook, right? Is the fact that they've gone for this approach where... Is the other guy? No, he's still over there. They've gone for this approach where you have to do extra work, and a lot of people are just going to sit there and be, I think, a lot of the time confused by it. Like, when it's working, it's really neat. But when it's not working and vibing, it is a bit, you know, kind of bizarre and stuff, and I can definitely see how some people would be like, oh, I don't like that style of it, or that's kind of confusing, or... Like, it feels like there's just sort of like an empty body that you just have sitting around for when you die, and you just get like a second chance.
Last round before side switch.
It's a bit bizarre, because there's just like, there's not as much combat at the same time. Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it, is it's like there's not enough constant... Like, there's conflict, and the map sizes are good for how many players are here. I think they work fine, even though they appear to be relatively large, you would say, right? As far as like a map, like, I think that's a good size level. But it is neat because you're not thinking of it from that perspective, but it's sort of like when it is 5v5, 6v6, whatever the setup you want to go for your particular type of shooter, uh, you know, that does lend itself to being something where you're more likely to come across people quicker with crazier bits of like moments in action, whereas if you're just controlling multiple people, that doesn't come as out often. But at the same time, by controlling multiple characters, you can switch and you can be in two places at the same time, practically. Which I think is really, really quite cool. Gives you a second chance. And you can also use your turret, like I said, your turret. You can use your other Spectre as a sentry. So it could be like someone could be watching one way, and you could use it as a distraction. You could be like, okay, I'll just throw this one out here. People will come and they'll shoot at it. When they get around a corner, they move around an area. And that's a great distraction for you. Whereas, you know, you can come up with your other Spectre and just kind of be like, whoa, surprise, and pop them as this other character is attempting to battle this one. And I think that in itself is a very good way to differentiate this game. Is like, if you look at it from a strategy perspective, it's actually really quite fascinating. I totally messed up there. I saw the red marker, but I wasn't sure. You can't jump up there. That is so funny, because so many people want to just be able to jump, but that is a mechanic that they force into this, is you have to use your other... Because you can like teleport with like the puck that you have. You can throw the puck up to a second level up there where you couldn't climb to, and then you could become that other character, and it's a ghost that you can use to help you move around. But like, if you don't buy into the concept of the two of you, you being two, then it doesn't really fully work for you, right? But I think it's got a nice aesthetic, it's got a clean UI, I think it's got a good design to it. I like what this is. You know, I found it to be semi-fun when I was playing it earlier on PC. And then it's just kind of neat to be here taking another look at it from the console perspective and just being like, how's it running and stuff like that. And it's not a bad way to go about playing this game. Like, I actually think if you find this interesting, I think you will have fun playing this. But it really depends on your interests as far as shooters. If you have room for another Counter-Strike game in your life, whether or not you want something that is a bit more tactical, because like it is a little easier going now that it's like the first kind of like day, as to say, right? Like, this is just kind of at beginning, so people aren't as crazy about it as far as consoles go. But then like, as people get better and stuff, it will definitely become a much more tactical situation, and much more like, people will have a very good feel and a vibe for it. And I can definitely see this one, wow, I can't believe that actually worked out there. I can definitely see this one becoming very, very competitive from that degree. It's just like how people interact with this and how they get into it. So it is going to be a very competitive shooter over time. And it's really going to be whether or not you vibe with the game from that perspective, and if it's something that has that hook that kind of keeps you going and interested in it. But I don't know, I think it's got potential if people dive into it. I know PC-wise, I don't know if it was really hitting there for sure, but like, I like it. I don't know if it's fully captured my interest either, but we'll do videos and streaming and check it out. But I would say, like, yeah, if at all it's kind of vibing with you, find it neat, you're interested in this concept, I think it's worth diving into and playing and checking out and seeing if it is something that kind of hits well into your rotation of shooter games, because there are many shooter options, and it's just whether or not this fully vibes for you and the style of gameplay you're looking for. But it's neat, it's got a neat vibe, a neat look, a different look. It's just whether or not that twist, that dual kind of having two characters, is either cool or something you find as like a weird distraction, or mentally you can't wrap your head around the fact that you have to manage two characters, which honestly could totally be a thing that some people just can't handle or don't want to handle. And I get it sort of either way and how you want to, you know, play shooters and stuff, but Not a bad way to go about it.
Zeus was reset to start.